Silverstone, the venue of the British Grand Prix.
Home of British motorsport.
Britcar, the British Endurance Championship.
And the home of the Britcar 24 Hours.
1,440 minutes, flat out, twice around the clock.
A full grid of 60 cars in 4 classes from famous motoring brands.
Ferrari, Aston Martin,
BMW, Porsche,
TVR and Lotus.
all the action
The drama and emotion.
of the 2010 Britcar 24 Hours. Hello and welcome to Silverstone for the longest multi-mark race in the UK. The Britcar 24 Hours is in its 6th year, but with last year's race being only 6 hours long, there's actually only 4 previous champions.
Yes, indeed. The race actually started in the mid-80s at Silverstone. It was called the Wilhar 24 Hours then, dominated by Fords and BMWs, M3s, fantastic cars. But the new incarnation, the Britcar incarnation, has only been won by 3 manufacturers, and that first 2 years was the BMW Z4M Coupe, the Red Bull of Dieter Quester, fantastic car. Martin Short's won in his Mosler, and also the last winner in 2008 was the Paragon Porsche of Mark Sumpter in a fantastic duel.
So who's going to add their name to that impressive roll of honour? Well, there's 4 different classes, which means there's plenty of scope for interesting and different cars. Ben's had a look.
The idea of 4 classes in the Britcar 24 Hours allows cars with different power to weight ratios to race on the same circuit for class honours, and this year has attracted some works entries, including the Lotus Evora GT4 car.
We're getting more and more requests now for long endurance races because I think the drivers get a lot of track time and things like this. So 24-hour races kept popping up and popping up. We decided, right, okay, we better go and do the ultimate test for us, which is a 24-hour race. And the thing about just hiring a circuit, it doesn't really put you under the pressures of racing. You know, the deadlines can change and you can change when you want and how quickly. So Britcar, it's a little bit comes in underneath the covers. Some good cars like those Porsches, Moslers, Aston. So we're racing against what we'll sell against. But this was the objective, to come here, see how we do, treat it as a development. But unfortunately the car's been virtually top 5 in times all weekend. So now it's turned into a bit of a race as well. As sort of technical manager is going to be my butt that's on the line when things fail, but you know, as long as we treat it as a development exercise, and you know, but the main thing is see what, if anything fails, hopefully nothing does, but it's in a controlled environment, and the main thing is to be there at the end, I think.
Also competing in Class 3 is a semi-works Aston Martin N24.
We'd come here off the back of a class win in the Spa 24 Hours a few weeks ago, which was our first race with the Aston GT4 car. It was also Jota Sport's first race as an Aston Martin Racing official partner team. So it was a great way to start that new chapter, and you know, obviously we're hoping to do the same again this weekend. It seems to be very reliable. We had one glitch in the Spa 24 Hours that literally was a glitch. It was just recurring, and that kind of painted a slightly sort of unfair picture, I think, because the car seems to be, you know, touch wood, faultlessly reliable in the hands of all the different teams that have had it. You know, very, very impressive. So I'm really hoping that, you know, we've got our tiny bit of bad luck and reliability stakes with it, you know, out of the way with this electrical glitch that we had in Spa. And so far we've had no issues with the car this weekend. We might not have the raw pace over 1 lap, but the point is we hope that we'll have a car that will keep going to the end of the 24-hour race.
In the same garage, Jota Sport are also running 2 fully backed Mazda MX-5s in Class 4.
Well, it's 20 years of the MX-5, so they've given us these 2 cars. We've turned them into your Class 4 race cars, and we're taking them racing for the 24 hours. In one car, we've got 5 journalists. In the other car, we've got a couple of them are journalists, but very good racing drivers as well, so should be able to mount a challenge in Class 4. They will be competitive. The brief from Mazda was it has to be a roadcaster, look like a roadcaster, run the standard engine, gearbox, all of those parts. So we've done very little there. All we've done is lose weight from the car and do all the necessary safety stuff. But the dynamics of the Mazda is so good anyway that the mid-corner speed is, well, the guys are out there embarrassing some of the Ferraris, let's just say.
Also in Class 4, a works Ginetta, but not the car you would expect from 24 hours.
The theory is we've taken a G40 straight off the production line, a standard car, registered it, driven it down to the race, stopped at Halfords halfway, bought an earth strap, continued on, taken the number plates off, and it's here, we're going to race it. We just want to show that a G40 is a multi-use platform. So not only can you use it in the Ginetta G40 Challenge, you can use it in a 24-hour race, and we hopefully prove that by the end of this race. We've gone for a slightly softer dry setup, slightly harder wet setup, but we're hoping with the rain that we'll get a good balance throughout the race and the car's going to be easy to drive because there's just 4 guys who work for Ginetta driving it. We think we'll do about 2.25 to 2.5 hours on fuel. We qualified 3rd in class first time out, so we're delighted with that. But overall, you know, we'd just really like to finish to prove the reliability of the car, but also, you know, I think we could win the class and maybe show some of the other people further up that you don't need the biggest engine in the world to do well overall.
Class 2 sees the return of the legendary Chevron brand to GT racing with the GR8.
We've spent a long time looking after our heritage. We've just done it the other way around from other companies. Bentley are now looking for their heritage. We've looked after ours for the last 35, 40 years and just coming out with this car. So it's great, nice to step forward and be back in modern racing. We're used to winning with Chevron, that's the aim, but we'll see how we go. It's been so predictable, the car, and consistent and no breakdown problems all year. So it's sod's law that something may go wrong, but hopefully not.
For the top favourites, look no further than Mosler. Conceived in America, they're most popular here in Europe thanks to 2005 Britcar winner Martin Short.
Very nervous for this one. It's a brand new car that we finished about 2 or 3 days ago. I've lost track now. We've had a lot of long nights to get here, a lot of long nights here and long days, lots of niggles, lots of problems. We're almost on top of the car. It's a new car, new chassis. It externally looks the same, internally quite different. We've got a small engine in it, 5.7 as opposed to 7. So we're a bit down on power, but it's very nimble. So this is a bit of a prototype, and it's a dip in the water to see if we can build a 24-hour car that can eventually come somewhere close to a Porsche GT3 car. And that is a big order because, you know, they are the ultimate 24-hour car, but that's what we're heading towards.
So an exciting array of cars.
Yes, indeed, and that's only just the icing on the cake. Wick Gamsky has entered his championship-leading 430 Ferrari, 6 out of 6 wins this year. But then there's little cars as well. There's a Seat Leons, there's a Renault Clios, and Honda, Synchro Motorsport, based at Swindon, where all Hondas are made. They've entered 2 cars, a Jazz and a Civic. So they're basically a works team as well.
And it's not just the cars that star here, of course. The Britcar 24 Hour has attracted some superstar names.
Had a cracking season so far. The RML Chevrolets really put up a great fight to everyone else out there this year, and I believe we've got the strongest package on the grid. I like doing the endurance races. When I grew up go-karting, that's what I did, the endurance racing rather than the sort of sprint races. So I've kind of switched roles as I've got older. But myself and Phil Bennett have done this race together 3 times now, and obviously Phil got the call to do it with the Aquila car, and very kindly phoned me up and invited me to come and do it as well. We've just got to really pace ourselves. We're not worried about who does the fastest lap in the car between the 3 of us. All we've set ourselves a target lap time, and that's what we're going to try and sort of aim to stick to. It's going to be difficult. There's no 2 ways about it. I'm not used to running on cold tyres, so that's going to be a bit of an experience, getting the heat into the tyres, knowing how hard I can push the car. We've got about 600 horsepower and no traction control, so that becomes a bit of a problem on cold tyres and certainly in the wet as well. But you know, we've just got to take it as it comes, get around the first corner. Hopefully we can stretch a bit of a lead to start with, get my head down for the first sort of 10 laps or so, and then just relax into it. You know, I'm doing 2 hours, doing a double stint all the way through the race, and yeah, like I say, hopefully we'll be here at the end. But it's just going to be a race of attrition. You know, first to finish first you have to finish, as they say, and that's what we're all going for.
It's my first 24-hour race with a car, but I already did it in karting, so I know what is a 24-hour race. So no, I'm not really nervous. I'm just eager to take the start, and we'll see what happens during the race. I'm confident with the car. I mean, I raced around 7 or 8 hours with the car, so I know the car pretty good, and it's a very good car. We have wider front tires here, and the car is very good with it, and with the splitter and the rear wing as well. So yeah, it's very fun to drive and very good car.
This has been a very good year for me. It's the first year in World Touring Car, but it's also a hard game. But I think it's okay. We have some problem in the middle and the start of the year with some puncture with the tires and engine broken down. But yeah, we have a very good car, a Porsche, and I think if it's gonna be rainy, it's also very good. And so I think maybe we can win overall. But I think first of all win our class, and so we must see in overall. But I think we have a very good chance to be on the podium.
What a fantastic event to make my return. I started the race and unfortunately ended on the first lap. I hit the wall over there at in excess of 150 odd miles an hour, and next thing I know was probably 6 weeks later waking up in hospital. BTCC is probably one of the toughest championships in this country, if not the world, to be fair. You know, touring cars is a fantastic series. Learned a lot, but it's all a building progress now for moving into next year and beyond. So I'm really pleased. I'm just pleased to be there in the first place. It's looking really good. I think if we can get a clear lap, the first few laps, you know, in the race, and get away with the pack, anything can happen in a 24-hour race.
How did you come into cars?
I've always been into motor racing since I was about 4 or 5 years old, you know, old Formula 1 and stuff, and been lucky with the band and various other things to be able to afford to give it a go. In the last 2 years has been fairly frenetic, trying lots of different things, and with these guys we've sort of done big endurance races and we've done well, and this is the sort of next direction with the Chevron. First time I did it in a Volkswagen Lupo diesel, which was excellent fun, and we did really well. We were leading for quite a big margin, but there was a problem with the fuel, but we sorted it and we got back out and we came third, so it was good. In terms of being in the music business, yeah, it's not too dissimilar. When you're about to go on stage or do something quite important like recording or whatever, you do get a bit of butterflies, and then you get started, you're fine. It's the same with getting in the race car. You're always if you don't have a bit of nerves, then you're probably not wired up properly.
I've ever driven really for about 3 hours or so, you know, in a 3-hour endurance race, but it should be a problem. I know what I've got to do. Got my drinks bottle, got everyone helping out. I've got everyone here. I'm just going to have a really good giggle, bit of a laugh, but at the same time it's serious, and we've got a job to do, and we're here to win our class and hopefully do as well as we can overall. This is what it's all about, 24-hour racing. Some of these people I haven't seen for a good 6 or 7 years, even when I started racing, so the whole thing for the drivers to see each other again, and mechanics and everybody to really stick in and work together, it's good because it brings Britain together, and you know, and this is what you know, the British people are about, and I just love to be involved in it.
So predominantly we have British drivers in this 24-hour race, but we do have a sprinkling of international flavour, don't we?
We do indeed. The Top Cat Marcos has 4 Japanese drivers. There's plenty of German representatives as well, with the veteran Tichenor Bmw, and drivers from Australia, Holland and Dubai.
Add to that Spain, France and Austria, and that's nearly 10 different countries represented here. It really is becoming a prestigious event on the international endurance calendar.
And part of the attraction, of course, is the circuit itself, and the Britcar 24-hour is going to be at Silverstone at least until 2015. Ben found out what makes it so special.
The site of RAF Silverstone was first used for motorsport in 1947, and after that became the very first venue for Grand Prix racing. Since then, it's been the place where most series have raced, from motorbikes to sports cars and of course Formula 1. Today, Johnny Molam takes this beautiful Lotus around the circuit and shows me what's so special about the bridge circuit here at Silverstone. A tricky place to do a 24-hour race?
Do you know what? I've done Le Mans 8 times, I've done Daytona about 10 or 11 times, Sebring, Petit Le Mans I've done Spa, I've never done the Silverstone 24 hours, of course. I'm a 24-hour Silverstone virgin.
Oh, it's very early in the morning, still very foggy. That must be a slight concern for come race day.
Well, I mean, as you can see, as we're coming into Cops Corner here, you can actually see that there's dry patches emerging. The sun's out, which is actually better than it has been any point up until now. It's been raining very, very heavily. It's forecast to rain again. As you can see, there's quite a lot of fog and mist out on the track, and I believe in the 3 out of the last 5 races, this has actually been red flagged due to fog in the middle of the night for poor visibility. Yeah. So it's going to be a bit of an experience, but the Lotus Evora car that we're driving is fantastically good, fortunately in the wet. The Magnus Beckett's complex, incredibly fast entry, so you're coming into this left absolutely flat out. In our GT car you have to start braking a little bit here in a straight line, then release the brakes and get back onto the throttle to balance the rear. The right hand part of Beckett's, and then you're straight into the left hander here, which leads you round and then onto the tight right hander out to the hang straight. I hug the left hand side here in order that when I do turn into the right I then get a really nice straight exit line, as much as possible anyway, out onto the hang straight. But because you're very early to throttle here, because you want to get a good exit, you always get pushed quite wide to the left. As it dips, you get, as you can see the surface change there, you get a big lake of water, so it acclimates quite fast. So I get over to the left hand side quite late though if it's wet. They're quite heavy braking, but there's a lot more grip of snow than you actually realise, and it's back to the old surface again, and you can actually turn in a little bit early but hug the apex. And then on the exit here, just be a little bit careful not to run wide. You've always got the front pushing on, the understeer coming into the car on the exit there, and then as you hit the curbing on the outside, just be a little bit careful of the rear.
We're into the newer section of the circuit now at Silverstone. We're also using the old circuit.
Oh, that confused me actually. It's funny you say that, because we're just coming to the Abbey chicane where I go left, and the first lap, because the last time I raced was in the Silverstone 1,000 kilometre race, the Le Mans Series race, I actually came out of club and came all the way down that straight on the left hand side to get ready for the fast right, and suddenly realised that the chicane, Abbey chicane was coming up and it was going left. So the first lap I did, it actually caught me out, even though I knew that we were on the old Grand Prix circuit. But I love Bridge Corner. I mean, I love the sort of sweep of the Abbey chicane. This corner we're coming through now, Bridge Corner. I love all of that. So I must admit, I don't miss being on the new Grand Prix circuit. I actually prefer personally the old configuration. Straight into Luffield. It used to be you can go all the way around the outside and the wet will be a lot quicker, but it doesn't seem to actually make much difference anymore, so I kind of hold it quite tight still to the curving on the right, and then just spot as soon as I can my exit out of Luffield. And again, very important to get very early to throttle in order to get a real clean shoot, get good traction out of the corner, and then just coming into Woodcote, which in the wet, believe it or not, is still a real corner here. You have to really be careful, especially in a GT car, not in a prototype, but in our car, just be aware of the rear of the car as you're coming through.
Our thanks to Johnny Molam and Lotus for that. Enjoy it, Ben?
Yeah, it was really interesting actually. A bit early for me, 8 o'clock in the morning. Fog still around on the circuit, so that's going to be a worry for the race, especially that late into the morning as well. But it's very featureless out there. Even in the light, it's very difficult to find your braking point and work out exactly where you should brake, especially with the new section where they've laid tarmac for the arena section. There's just these vast amounts of tarmac, and it's very difficult to pinpoint where you should brake, where you should turn in, where you should apex. So it's going to be a real challenge for the drivers.
Yeah, definitely a challenging race ahead, and it's getting very close to the start, so let's take a look at qualifying. Qualifying is the first chance to see cars and drivers at their limit. Times are taken from both a 1 hour session in the day and then a 2 hour session in the night. However, because the night session was hampered by the weather, most cars have taken their times from their day session. Leader of Class 4, the BPM Racing Limited Leon Supercopa, is in 22nd place, but 11 places ahead of their closest class rivals. 10th on the grid is Lotus Motorsport. In 9th sits the Mosler of Roll Centre Racing, who shone through the darkness in the night qualifying session. 8th is Neil Garner Motorsport in their Porsche 996, who lead Class 3. The MJC Ferrari is in 7th position. 6th on the grid is Chesterton-Com Holdings. Runnymede Mosler is in 5th. 4th on the grid sits the Class 2 pole sitter, Jet Alliance Racing in their Porsche 997. In 3rd is the Eclipse Mosler, who also excelled in the wet. 2nd on the grid is the Strata 21 Mosler, and in pole is the Wessex vehicle Aquila.
The car's basically got to go for 24 hours and hopefully have no work done to it. That's a big ask for any race car, especially one that's as new as this one. So, but you know, just great to be. I mean, you look around us on the grid, there's hundreds if not thousands of people here, more coming on behind us, and what a great event to be at. It's just hope the weather, the rain just holds off as long as possible.
The team have done an amazing job. They've worked so hard in the weeks leading up to this, and it was pretty hectic in qualifying, the rain and everything else. Lots of people having problems, some going off, and my first flying lap got us pulled by a thousandth from the Aquila, and then of course he went again. I tried to go again, but we had a yellow and then oil went down. I just thought the risk wasn't worth it. So front row, very happy.
Fueling is a big problem for us, so really we're just going to try and economise as much as we can, just find our slot and get into a rhythm really. We don't want to get too much involved in trying to chase too hard to start with, and hopefully, please God, we'll be there at the end.
We have a good position at the grid, but it goes 24 hours, and if you just have a look around, all the cars are actually stronger than our car. So, and we try to stay off of every fight at the beginning, and then let's see what will happen after 6 hours, 12 hours, and so on. And I think in overall our chances are not bad, but we have to stay out of trouble. I mean, everybody tries to do the same, but yeah, let's see.
We have the best team on the grid, I am pretty sure, of drivers and mechanics, so quite confident. Anything can happen, but we have to be confident, yes.
Now, obviously you're used to endurance racing. How important is teamwork when it comes to endurance and, of course, something like this, the 24 hours?
It's the whole thing. A driver can only make it go wrong. Not a driver can make this race, can win this race, only can lose it. It's the team and the teamwork that makes the success in long-distance racing.
We're expecting the Class 3 cars that are behind us to not swamp, but maybe in the first 5 or 6 laps start to get their legs and go past us, obviously down the back straight, I can never remember the name of, Hanger Straight. But I think if it starts to rain, and I'm told it's going to rain 7, 8, but somebody else has actually told us around about 11 o'clock, 7 please. And then yeah, that's where we're really good in the wet.
And what's the emotion like starting this sort of race? You a Britcar regular, but a 24-hour race is a bit different, isn't it?
Completely different. It's just emotion after emotion after emotion.
Well, that's it for now. When we return, the Britcar 24-hour 2010 will be underway.
Welcome back to Silverstone. We're ready for the start now of the 2010 Britcar 24-hour race. Hopefully everyone will get safely round the first corner. Here they come then. Watch for the flag at the top left of your screen. Once that waves, we will be racing, and here we go. The Aquila on the front row of the grid looks like he's going to take command of the race. Side by side go the Moslers of Callum Lockie and Phil Keane. I think Lockie it is who's snuck around the outside. Everyone else making their way now through Copse and heading towards Maggots and Beckett. The Aquila under a little bit of pressure there by the looks of things as they went into the corner, although it's extremely good going through these fast left, right S's. And the rest of the field all filter their way through, trying to find a piece of circuit. Remember, 24 hours of racing. No need to go hell for leather quite so quickly. And everyone seems to have made it through. We had all 60 starters, by the way, start on circuit. We go on board with the 22 Licnahoya Jet Alliance Porsche, who sneaks around the outside of one car. Is that going to be 2? I think it might be. And he moves himself into 2nd position then. Oh no, it is 3rd as Callum Lockie comes back at him going into Stowe. A little bit of a twitch on from the Porsche. But obviously a slight problem initially as they came onto the Hanger Straight from the Strata 21 car that's now mapped back into 2nd position. Actually, it compromised Phil Keane more than it did the Strata 21. as we see now outside, and there is confirmation that the Porsche is ahead of Phil Keane in the Eclipse Mosler. Look just through the screen there, saw a very good Marcos. We run on board now with Ollie Bryant. He's changing down 2 gears to go into Abbey Chicane, finds the apex there. He's constantly checking his mirrors to see if anyone's around him as we switch back to the leader of the race then, Rob Huff, the Chevrolet Cruze Works World Touring Car driver, leading his way around the first lap. Then it's Mosler, Porsche, Mosler. There's Ollie Bryant losing the rear end of his car. And I think that was Martin Short who was sitting right behind him as a Nissan goes up the inside. Alex Bunkin takes Wick Gamsky. That's the Ferrari 430. We haven't seen much in the pre-race build-up, only entered 8 days ago, but to the front of the field. And Rob Huff completes lap 1 of the 2010 Britcar race in the lead of the race. Then it's Callum Lockie. Then the Jet Alliance Porsche with Phil Keane really very much in attendance. So Lotus has had a good first lap as well. He's moved his way up, and now we look further back down the field. The 54 car, the Thorny Motorsport car is there, and that is the Chevron, who had a very good first lap, but he's limping off to the side of the circuit. That's down at Stowe, and it doesn't look very happy at all. I think he's pulling off, brakes applied, and he's out of the race already. Problems at the very start for the Chevron, not good. Back on board then, as the Porsche gets passed by Martin Short, who's making his way up. That is the slightly lower powered Mosler, the 5.7 engine in the back of that one. But the safety car is out because I guess the Chevron is off in a dangerous position. They've got him on the flatbed truck, but what on earth could be the problem so early on as the Britcar Mercedes safety car leads the field round. Let's go down to the pits. We've already had a few people in the pit lane, and one of them was Callum Lockie. Let's find out what the problem was with the Strata 21 Mosler.
What was the problem there?
We've already lost the paddle shift system on the car, so we've had to revert back to manual. It's okay for Paul behind me and Ross and everything. I've driven it before. I've not driven it with the stick before, so that's good. It's not a bad thing.
And you're obviously not going to get time to have a practice before you go out.
No, and I'm going out about 10 o'clock when it rains, so it's going to be fantastic.
You're used to challenging situations, though.
Yeah, it's a long race. We'll see what happens. It's not good to have early problems, but I think everyone is going to have something. Hopefully that's the end of ours, but you never know.
Well, the Chevron is now back in the pits, and it sounds like it's terminal for the GR8.
What's happened is one of the chassis legs has actually cracked under load, whatever, we don't know. We could probably get it out and repair it, but at the end of the day, the driver's safety is more important to us than doing well in a race, so we're going to pull the car.
Call it.
Call it a day. Unfortunately, call it less than 24 hours.
Dare I say that's motor racing?
It happens, it's the car was going well, the times were fantastic, it felt good for everybody, but you just can't predict that. When something cracks, you can't see it, and we could, it'd be nice to try and fix it. It'd be lovely to get them to the end of the race, brilliant to get the car at the end of the race, but I'd rather be talking to all of them tomorrow, and it's more important to us that. So unfortunately that's it, what can you do?
Well, quite right, but bad luck.
So far it's been, we've enjoyed every minute of being here, so we'll be back next year, and we'll probably do a few of the other Britcar rounds next year and get it out and have some fun.
Well, green flag flies then, and we're back underway here at Silverstone. Some people have taken the opportunity to pit whilst under safety car, but in the green flag conditions, it's still Rob Huff muscling his way through Maggots and Beckett's in that beautiful Aquila. It's the very first time that we've seen it on British shores in a race situation. It tested at Castle Combe, but didn't actually manage to get to race day without having some sort of fire, I think it was. So a completely rebuilt car, and now on track. Never tested on British soils, never tested in a 24-hour race. The rest of the cars behind are a little bit out of order. That's the Cox Ford Escort running down in the mid-20s at the moment. But because of the safety car, everything's all mixed up. Second position, was the Martin Short Roll Centre Mosler, the smaller of the two cars, but Phil Keane has muscled his way through at the end of Hanger Straight there, so good bit of racing going on between those two. Obviously the Strata 21 car is further back now after its pit stop, and here's a good battle a little bit further down in the top 10. Ollie Bryant there in his black and green Marcos, checking the mirrors, because right behind him is one of the Top Cat cars, and further ahead then is Wick Gamsky, now having to fend off the attentions of the new Lotus Evora GT4 car. Beautiful car that is. Back on board with Ollie Bryant. Now he's got the Nissan passing him. Alex Buncombe going down the inside there. That looks like at the very start of the Beckett's S's. So a brave passing move. And yes, indeed, as they get down to Hanger Straight, Ollie Bryant losing a bit of pace. I think potentially a problem with that car. It's the most reliable of endurance cars. Oh, spin from further back. Looks like the Lotus has got involved there with the 42 Azteca Porsche. And they both do continue, but a big tyre squealing moment for the Lotus. Hopefully that hasn't caused too much damage to either car, because either of those two are going to be right at the front of the field. The photographers to take photos of. Another one, another squeal, and that looked like a Moser to me. It's the Runnymede, shared with Top Cats. The Runnymede car off on the side of the circuit, and I think it was desperately trying to get past the Dutch Seat, but yellow flags flying once more. Safety car back out on circuit, and I have a feeling this is going to be the order of the day here at the 24 Hours. There's one of the reasons as to why we've had to have the safety car to recover the Speedworks Ginetta. That gets towed back to the pits. Another opportunity for Rob Huff and the Aquila team to bring him in, change sets of tyres, tightening up all the hub nuts there as well. Oh, drops back down. Rob is strapped in and away they go. They're expecting to do at least 24 stops. Oh, that's a sad sight to see. The 43 GT Classics team Porsche 993 RSR. That wheel has got a lot of far too much camber on the right-hand side. And also there's the Dutch Seat we saw a little bit earlier on, causing some problems. And the light is already starting to fade as the race continues. That's the Thorny Motorsport car. No, it's not. That is Stark Racing Ginetta heading towards the barrier. Oh, that's going to damage the lights on the front of the car. Not exactly what he wanted. I think he'll be able to limp that car back to the pits. We go on board once more with the Porsche, trying to get through some back markers. Looks as though that was the Dread Seat that he was passing going into Copse. Notice just one down change as he went into that corner super fast. Now, we thought Ollie Bryant might have been having problems in this Marcos early on. Let's find out from Mima what the issues are.
Just as I came in for my fuel stop then, there was a bit of a clonking noise from the back of the car, so I went back out again and it's still doing it, and wanted to come in and check it before, make sure it's nothing loose or nothing major, so just doing that now, and they can't seem to see anything, so either myself or the next driver is going to go out and carry on. So it was going well early on, so it's a shame to come in so early on, but best to double check and make sure it's nothing serious.
Okay, so actually this is just a check, and it's well worth doing this at the beginning of the race, obviously.
Yeah, I think because it's such a severe clonking noise, I thought, if I carried on, the diff might fall out the mounts or something like that, so best just to be sure,
Holding your own out there in the meantime?
Yeah, it was going well. I think we were up to third at one point before I stopped, so it's going fine, so just try and enjoy it before it starts raining.
Before the stops, it was Rob Cullum who continued to lead the class in the BPM Seat in Class 4, but since then, now everyone has stopped once. The Ginetta G40 has managed to take over the lead of the race, and let's see how far that little car can go before it needs its first stop. We know the G50 is very good on fuel. What about this little 2-litre car? In the pits then, the Red Bull Lotus has been rather too many times for the first few hours of the race. Let's find out from Alistair McKinnon what's up.
We had a couple of issues during that stint. A fuel pressure breaker coming on the car, which we had one when I couldn't recycle it, and we stopped, and then after that you learn the hard way, and then just seems to be a little heat issue. I think the guys have fixed it now, just a loose connection, electrical problem. Car's running really well, but it's a long race.
But if it continues that way, you seem to have an advantage above everyone else by not having to come in as often.
For sure the car is very economical. We built it as an economical, it's not outright quickest by any stretch, but it handles really well, and by the look of the tyres, we're in good shape if it just keeps going.
So you're the tortoise, not the hare in this race, is that right?
Well, I hope we're a fast tortoise.
Great stint though, so you're going to have a bit of a rest?
Yeah, go for a curry, a few pints of Red Bull, obviously, and then we're back out again. Hopefully, if it stays dry, we've got a good advantage. In the wet, it's anybody's game.
Also now in the garage is the second place car, the Eclipse Motorsport Mosler, and that has got some problems too. A lot of attention on the rear end. Michael McInerney bringing that car in.
We're coming towards the end of the stint. They said look out for the fuel light, and then there was some graunching noises under braking, which seemed to get a little bit worse each lap. And then just before I came in there, a horrible scorching noise, and it felt like something fell off the front of the car, but it seemed okay, but we've lost third gear, so Sean's just gone out. Rather than get too involved in trying to find out what's wrong, we know we haven't got third, but we're just going to see what else is wrong with the car. So he's unfortunately trying to get round in 4th, 5th and 6th, so we'll see what happens.
Hand it over to the younger version of you.
Exactly, I'm going to go for a rest now.
Really sad for the Eclipse Motorsport guys because they try so hard every year, but at the moment it's the Aquila who has a massive lead, nearly lapping the whole field out front as the race turns to darkness. Join us in a few moments for more from the Britcar 24 Hours. We're 3 hours in here at Silverstone for the 2010 Britcar 24 Hours, and it's Aquila ahead by 2 laps of the Mosler, then Porsche and Ferrari. Class 3 led by the Intersport BMW in 6th, and in 20th is the Class 4 leading Ginetta. Wessex Vehicle Engineering have entered the Aquila, although Nigel Mustill, who owns the company, not actually driving this weekend, name on the side of the car, but decided to leave it to Phil Bennett, Rob Huff and Kelvin Burt. We are on board with the 22 Porsche lying in 3rd spot, leading Class 2, and you can see just how dark it is. There is the Intersport BMW. It's an amalgamation of 2 Britcar teams, Kevin Clark and Wayne Gibson, but also the very experienced Mike Jordan. Big shake-up though, as BPM have a problem.
I came off at Maggots, thought I had the line, and I actually thought the car had seen me. It's BMW, I can't remember which one it is, it's a 1 Series white. Basically I thought I'd got the line, I thought he'd seen me. As I went in, he turned in to go right, and bang, that was it. We met and ended up off the gravel.
Okay, but the good news is the car is back out. What were the problems with it when you came in to check it?
Front wishbone was bent, basically. We've got it back there somewhere. Doesn't look very good.
Okay, well, a good run until that point.
It was fantastic, absolutely brilliant. We used to have the Clio, so we were the little guys at the back all the time. Now we know. I actually know what it feels like now at last to overtake somebody, and it was brilliant.
So that's going to completely change the face of the Class 4 race, because the Ginetta really doesn't have a challenger now. After its first pit stop, the BPM Seat was ahead, but the Ginetta's so much better on fuel consumption. Not as fast, though, as this little chimp tune Lotus Elise. The 82 car is reeling in the Ginetta, but as the rain starts to fall, it's slowing down. It's also causing major problems for other cars. There's the Honda Civic of Synchro Motorsport, entered by the guys from Swindon in the pits, having attention, as is the very fast Nissan 370Z, entered by, well, nearly a works Nissan, actually, RJN Motorsport, and plenty of action going on underneath their car. Problems also for the Lotus Evora, the works car. Gearbox problems, we think, with that one, and therefore lots of attention to the rear end. Ollie Bryant brings back his Marcos yet again into the pits. They didn't find out what the problem was first time, but maybe another problem. And into the pits is our leader, Aquila, with a rear end issue. They are tending the wishbones. I think one of them is cracked, and that is slowly eating away at the lead, which was about 3 laps when he came into the pits, but I don't think it's going to be too long before he loses the lead of the race. It's going to be this car, the Roll Centre Mosler, who at the moment splashing their way around the Silverstone circuit, who's going to inherit the lead. But just behind them, the Runnymede Mosler, the faster, larger engined car, is looking very, very strong indeed. And amazingly, up to 3rd position now is this car, the 430 Ferrari, which is leading the Britcar Championship, changing onto wet tyres, but looking extremely strong now the car has got up to proper operating temperatures. But what's happening with the Cox Ford Escort?
We broke a spark plug earlier. Never happened before. Start of this race, then she said we put 4 new spark plugs in, 24 hours. We were going really well, and we got a misfire. Got a misfire at high revs. Brought it in earlier, and it was a broken spark plug. So we changed that one spark plug, and then I've been out, and the car was going fantastically. It's really good in the wet, no problems at all. Going in, getting back up to where we should be, or feel we should be. And it started again, misfiring. So we come in. This time they've changed all 4 spark plugs, but we're not sure if that's the problem or not. We're hoping it is, but it doesn't sound so good at the moment.
Aaron, you're in the Ginetta. Drive shaft problem?
Yeah, I had a drive shaft go hour and a half into that stint. No reason, no rhyme or reason. Everything was absolutely fine and just lost drive.
You always come across as the most patient man in the world when it comes to problems. You're just so accepting of it.
Well, I think especially, there's another side to me, but in general with these races, there's a lot of preparation, a lot of hard work, and then there's luck, and things can happen, and just have to be relaxed. And there's still a long way to go, so everybody else can have a drive shaft go yet. We have to have a fair bit of luck to come back from it.
Incredibly tricky conditions out there. Now the night has fallen completely. It's really sheeting down with rain and a little bit cold, so fog is an issue on the windscreens of the cars, and we're seeing many people go off. In fact, that looks like a dot that's slowing down at Vale, and it is. It's the 84, the Dutch Seat, one of the few diesels in the race, and that looks like it's beached in the gravel at Vale. Surely that'll bring out the safety car as well. The little Honda Jazz is going around at Copse. Woo, I think he just about held it off the barrier there. But the car's already been in the walls quite a lot, as has the second-placed Runnymede Mosler.
It's a 24-hour race. It's all about endurance, and I think I'm not actually sure where we were. I believe we were in the lead from what the guys told me. I didn't really know, but just totally my own fault. Sort of looking at an Aston Martin and wasn't really looking to overtake him. Just sort of pulled out from him to see where the track was going and just hit a bit patch of water and aquaplane straight off at Maggots Beckett's, and sort of couldn't get it stopped before the gravel trap, so I ended up just brushing the gravel. So yeah, really disappointed for the guys. Obviously they worked really well, and our strategy really was to just drive nice and slowly, get around without any problems and see where we were sort of 15-20 hours into the race. But yeah, like I say, totally my own fault. I mean, just got caught out by the conditions. So
just how tricky is it out there? Because obviously visibility is difficult in the dark anyway. Lots of slower cars, very, very wet. It must be really tricky to get around a clean lap.
Yeah, the main thing, I mean, the visibility is awful when you're behind another car, but the main thing is the aquaplane. I mean, literally, if you go offline, you aquaplane. So, I was coming up, even if you go offline down the straight, you're aquaplaning off the road. So, by the end of the stint there, I wasn't even flat down the straight. So, it's pretty treacherous out there, but that's no excuse. Everyone's got to drive to conditions, and you can always go slower. So, yeah, really, really disappointed for the guys, and hopefully we won't have any further issues from my mistake, but we'll have to just wait and see.
I was about to say that left the roll centre Mosler unchallenged, but look at the mess that John Barnes has made the back end of his car. Trying in, as I said, very difficult conditions. He's also put it into the gravel, so frustrated he won't even talk to us. So down the start-finish straight is our new leader, and it's a Class 2 car. It is the Jet Alliance 22997 Porsche RSR. And being very expertly driven as well, but being chased down by the local boys. Wick Gamsky's Ferrari 430, the most beautiful sounding car out there, as one of the other Class 1 cars has further attention. The GTF racing team, loads of maladies already with that TVR. They fixed yet another problem with the windscreen wipers, and he's going back out on circuit to have another crack. Junichi Yumoto waiting for Dave Allen to bring the Honda Jazz back into the pits. There he is, giving him the good luck sign, because he already went round at Copse. That wouldn't have damaged the rear wing. I think that must have just fallen off. Potentially that's where the Copse damage came from. That car looking a real mess. It's a new build as well though, and it's great to see it out of the Britcar 24 Hours. Another Porsche that's had problems going back out on the circuit. That's the Fothergill Porsche in Class 3, and also problems for the only Honda Accord in the race.
I did the first stint, which was nice. It was dry and it was light. So I had so far I've had the best of the racing. We've had a couple of incidents earlier in the wet. We had a collision with another car and had some damage, and then one of our drivers has just binned it into the gravel coming out of Vale, and it's the one place on the track that we can't get a tow from. So we had to open the bonnet in the rain, sweep gravel out of the engine, and drive it back here at 2,000 RPM. We're just clearing it out now. The problem with this car is if you get any gravel in the cam or anything, it completely knacker the engine. So we're just doing a bit of gardening at the moment. I've just heard from the Aston team that they, anybody who puts it in the gravel has to buy its weight in beer for the mechanics. So I think we might institute that in this team.
So how are the Mazdas getting on? Well, solidly both of them in the top 20, trundling around. And let's hear from ex-Formula One driver Mike Wiles, who had a seat this weekend.
The circuit was atrocious, basically. I suppose I can only be thankful that I was driving a very road-based Mazda. The car was fantastic, really, but aquaplaning was really bad. Visibility was horrendous. Somebody must have been dropping some oil or something, because my screen was very greasy, so it was very, very difficult to see. But I think we gained a few places overall during the stint, so I'm very happy with that. I mean, I'm an old man now. I'm just so chuffed that Mazda let me race this weekend. I'm having a ball, so I don't care how atrocious it is. I'm just going to enjoy it.
One of the 3 diesels in Class 4 is the 330D Alpha Tune BMW. John Clonis tells us what it's all about.
Obviously a diesel is going to be an advantage at this point.
Well, I guess under rainy conditions, definitely, yeah. The diesel comes into its own a little bit. But in class, I think there's quite a lot of cars in the Class 4, and there's a big gap in performance between some of them. But we're here with a new car, actually. The guys have just picked this car up in England to take back to Dubai to do some endurance stuff. So rather than ship it straight back, we figured we'd enter the Britcar and have a bit of fun, give the guys some experience of 24-hour racing.
And are you enjoying it so far?
Always, yeah. I mean, I was here a couple of years ago and had a great time then, so I'll have a great time this time. It's always fun. Doesn't matter what car you're in.
Okay, well, we're just over halfway through, and you're 10th in class at the moment, and obviously you're sort of fairly far down the pack as far as that's concerned, but long way to go, and anything could happen.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of 24-hour racing. I haven't had a look at the timesheet because I've just stepped out of the car, but I think that there's a chance for us to pick up a few places, and there's always unforeseen attrition, hopefully not us. But you never know, a podium's always on the cards. You can always snatch that, and it'll be a little bit of fun to take back with us. So, yeah, it's not really our objective. Our objective is to just get the car around and get the guys used to the racing. But I think, anything's possible out here. We've seen it all before, haven't we?
Sitting in the middle of the pit lane is the Roll Centre Mosler. And not sounding or looking particularly clever. Taped up on the rear end. The mechanic's now pushing it backwards down towards its pick box. And could that be the end of the day for Martin Short's GT Cup car? That's a sad sight indeed. Back out on track. The Morgan, we haven't seen too much of that, and it's the one with a flashy light on because it's so low. 29 car going very slowly around Copse. But even worse sight is the Aquila on the back of a pickup truck. It's been in the gravel down at Bridge Corner, and big problems for the once leader of the race.
In the end, I think Kelvin had the throttle stick in Bridge, and then obviously we were already, I don't know, we're 35 laps down, and obviously having the throttle stick open in these conditions is probably not ideal, so we just called it a day, really.
Looking at the performance of the car, though, it's done incredibly well considering it's pretty unproven in this event.
Yeah, I mean, where were we? We were probably 4 or 5 laps in the lead, I think, 5 hours into the thing, but look, it's 24 hour, right? So maybe we should enter 5 hour or 1,000 kilometre racing. That would probably be good for us. No, I mean, it's a new car, and I think the guys have the designer of the cars learned quite a lot. The teams learned quite a lot, and I'm sure we'll be back. And as you say, the thing's got some good pace, and as you say, because we're still learning the car, then it's going to be quicker next time we're out.
Halfway through the 24-hour race, and it's a strange little result at the moment because leading Class 1, but second overall, is the Ferrari 430 with John Gorge just getting out the car.
We're in a great position. We plan to just get through the night and get to like 10 o'clock in the morning. Suppose we'd be in, like, to be honest with you, even top 10, top 5. That's where we wanted to be in race for the last 5 hours. But terrific so far. The car's absolutely immaculate. It's running perfectly. Everything's working well, and we're in great shape.
Now, of course, you're racing in a Ferrari 430 this weekend, Wick Gamsky's car, but you've got Porsche on your overalls. You know Porsche very well, and you're racing one. Is that helping?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're very, very different. One's rear engine with lots of great traction, one's mid-engine with lots of front end on it, grip. But I'd say the big difference with this car, this is an endurance car. The Porsche is really a sprint car. This car's got traction. This car's got lots of different settings on it, and middle of the night, mist, rain. That's exactly what you want. The car's terrific. And when it comes to later on this morning, when it's nice and I think it's going to be dry in the morning and probably slicks on the track, I think then we can really show some pace.
Leading Class 2 and also leading the race is the Jet Alliance 22 Porsche.
It really happened like we expected, that some of the other GT2 cars went in some problems, but you said halfway through, we know halfway through, so still a long way to go.
Are you surprised about the pace of some of the contenders in the race so far? The ones that haven't had problems, like the Ferrari, seem to be as close to you as very fast.
Yeah, the Ferrari is really, I think, the biggest battle in that race, because the other ones, they fell back quite many laps, so I think to gain back 12 or 14 laps, that will be tough. So that's why I think if the Ferrari stays out of trouble in V, then that will be the battle for the race. But yeah, let's see. We just have seen that they still on wet tires, and we are already on intermediates, and it's really difficult what to use right now, because it's no new rain coming up, but the ground is quite cold, and it's foggy out there, so it stays wet. But we are not really 100% sure if we did the right choice of the tires.
Leading Class 3 and enjoying the wet weather, the Azteca 42 Porsche of Javier Morcillo and Manuel Cintrano.
It's all going very well. Still got a long way to go, but we're feeling quite comfortable. The wet suits us, the weather suits us. All the drivers are happy. The car seems happy, so we'll see how we go.
What more could you ask for at this point in a 24-hour race, really?
Yeah, absolutely. With the fog coming in, and we've done quite well. We're full up of fuel already. We're in quite a good position.
The Ginetta is leading Class 4, and we move into the second half of the 24 hours after this short break. Welcome back to Dawn at Silverstone and the standings after the first half of the race. The Motors are all suffering, which means it's Porsche ahead of Ferrari at the front, Javier Morcillo in third spot, and you'll notice that there's a BMW missing, and we'll get to that in just a second. Well, the sound of dawn as the birds tweet and come to life. Safety car's been out for 2.5 hours because of thick fog, which is sort of traditional now at the Britcar 24, but soon they'll be released to race again. Meanwhile, under safety car, we've had this major issue. The Intersport BMW has ruined its front end and could be out of the race.
The problem happened in Maggots, avoiding somebody else's accident, either T-boning them or going off on the grass, hit the barrier, very, very low speed, 20 mile an hour, got back on, go all the way down to Stowe, go through the exit of Abbey, and then straight in the gravel. Not enough lock, because that was broken. The corn broken. So then the tractor took us behind the barrier, couldn't get out.
Battling to take over the second in class then is the Tichenor Bmw. The German guys have entered every year of the Britcar 24 hours and loving this year because they're right up the front end of the field. And they're battling with Britcar regulars Keith Gent and Steve Clark. KG Motorsport Car has been struggling this year in the championship, but seemingly having a great run here in the 24 hours. The Aston Martin is next. The Jota Run car has been experiencing similar problems to that it had at its debut at Spa-Francorchamps. And we've got the Toyota off at Copse. That's the 50 car, the MR2 of Team Rogue Racing. And they'll shortly be pulled out of the gravel and back to the pits. Mima will be there, but at the moment she's with Whit Gamsky.
You're putting in some amazing lap times.
That's why we're keeping John and Keith in the car for the time being, because we have a big fight on with the number 22 Porsche, and at the moment we're working for the team now. We are now down for the team. It's not about getting another glory, getting another drive. I can drive home and have a good cruise round something, you know. But at the moment, Keith and John are going to drive the best they can, and that's the way it is.
So Keith and John have got 8 hours to share.
As a team, you've managed to gain 3 laps in a very short amount of time, and you are actually trumping the Porsche as far as times are concerned.
Yeah, we've just got to keep it up. We've made a few little mistakes. I only just found out I got a lap penalty early in the night, which I didn't realise. It was I think we were 32 mile an hour, and the pit lane when we left it just glitched it, and we got a lap penalty. And Phil accidentally just caught a red light at the end of the pit lane, so we lost a lap on that. So, you know, learned by my mistakes, but we just got to fight back. But the car's good, and I think we can still do it. But you know, the other team, they're such a professional team. You know, they've done it many more times than us, so we're just very, very pleased to be in this position, second place with 6 hours left to go. So something 2 weeks ago we weren't even coming. So.
Other stories from the pits: the fast but fragile RJN Nissan 370.
The wets weren't really working. It wasn't wet enough for them, and there hadn't rained for quite a long time, and there wasn't much spray, so you kind of think, take a bit of a chance while we're stopping. But it's so changeable. You can be on the right tyre in 2 laps time and then the wrong tyre in 3 laps time. So
we have a very big weather front coming in.
Yes, well, it's late, isn't it? I think it was supposed to come in sooner, so we've kind of been waiting for it, but now we've changed tyres, it'll probably chuck it down.
Will you just be happy to finish the race?
I think we were doing very well. Alex did a really good first stint, so we got up to 6th or 7th, and then we had some fuel pump problems. So it's been like snakes and ladders. We've clawed our way back up and then slithered back down again. So I think we just need to stay out of trouble if we can and see what happens, because there's still just less than half the race, isn't there? So anything can happen, I think.
One of the great stories from this year's event is that Top Cats are running 3 cars, but also a car full of Japanese drivers, and none of them really speak that much English. Here's Toru Nakano.
I got the 4 Japanese drivers in Top Cats racing in one of the Marcoses. The problem is they haven't been here before, and also they've been racing just for 1 year. So it's nice to tell them that some tips, you know, before they go out.
You've brought them over to this horrible land that is England, where you've been living for the last 8 years as well.
Yeah.
Your background is in racing, obviously, in Japan. Yeah. Why have you come over here?
In '95, when I did a Formula 4 in Japan, I won few races, and my sponsor allowed me to come over here. I really enjoyed racing here. Then since then I went back to Japan after that, then raced a little bit in Japan, then stopped racing in '99, then came back here in 2002 as an instructor.
And obviously you must love Silverstone, the circuit itself.
Yeah, it's a lovely circuit. You know, it's the home of the motorsport. It's not just like a big, F1 Grand Prix circuit. This is where Formula 1, started. You know, it's just so fantastic to just drive.
Now up to 7th position is the recovering Strata 21 Mosler, leading the battle of the Moslers. They've just passed the Seat, the 44 car, which is crewed by a bunch of Aussies. We'll talk to them a bit later on, but they are having a great job in the wet weather. They're in Class 3, as is, look how foggy it is out of that windscreen. That is the Azteca Porsche, which is leading the class, but second now is the Jota Aston Martin. We saw them on circuit earlier. Let's now hear from the designer of the car, who's racing this weekend, Chris Porritt.
We're doing very well, but it's down to the reliability of the car really, and the guys in the team making sure that the car's in one piece.
You've had a lot to do with the car, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I started in 2006. I started with a few guys in the workshop at Aston Martin to make a V8 Vantage for racing, which we started at the Nürburgring 24 hours, and that became the GT4 car that we're seeing today.
So we've talked about the car running reliably and how much you have to do with it. What's it actually like out there, racing in this weather with all of those amazing cars out there?
It's not too bad, actually. I mean, the general driving standard is very good. People are very aware of other cars behind them. You need to give it a little warning by flashing the lights occasionally with some. But the weather's really been the thing that's made it very difficult. I mean, at the moment, there's standing water on both of the straights, which means that the car moves around all the time. So you just got to be on your mettle a little bit and just drive within yourself and make sure that, you know, you bring the car around.
Ginetta have done an absolutely fantastic job with this G40, only on its second set of tyres, and it's run up in the top 10 overnight. So the interest really lies in the battle for second in Class 4, and it had been led by the Coxford Escort early on. Then British touring car driver John George was leading till a moment ago.
We got tagged by a car on the rear right going down the main straight and turned me round and then put me back into the wall. So we got a lot of damage on the front and a bit of damage on the rear. And probably the guy that hit me probably didn't see me either. So I don't, you know, it's everybody's out there trying to do their best, and it's so wet and horrible out there at the moment. You just got to accept that things are going to happen.
What's the visibility like?
In spray, it's horrible. But once you have some clear running, it's fine. The problem is nobody can overtake, because as soon as they get behind you, they can't see. And once they get in front of you, you'll fall backwards. So it makes it quite interesting.
That's left the 81 car, the Saxon Motorsport Honda Civic, in the battle for second in class, although there are Integras behind. Will soon be threatening that. Also running strongly in Class 4 is the MG-ZR of DC Motorsport.
It is really tricky, especially down the back end of the complex, where into Vale it's really slippery into there, and also the complex out of Maggots Beckett's. But to be fair, the front drivers have been really good and it's given us a bit of room. We're just holding our line and let them go past, and we're just trying to run our own race. We had a few problems earlier in the day. We had got hit by an Integra, and then we had to get the car sorted out, so we lost a lot of time. We're just slowly picking up, and we want to finish now. That's all we want to do. We was hoping for a top 3 at the end of the day, but getting the car to the end of the 24 is the idea. But a podium would have been good, but that's not this year. We had one last year, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, you're fairly used to Britcar, 24. The car and the team have driven 3 times. Is this your 4th year?
It's the car's 4th year. Kevin Bull at KB Automotive, he built it the first year and had to finish then, and this is our 3rd year running the car and driving. It's basically owned by 2 people, and we just sort of get a few quid together and run it ourselves. It's no money making an organisation. It's just helpers. All these guys in here are just really giving us good fun, and it's good fun. I mean, it's really good. It's a shame we've had a bit of a problem with the car, but yeah, we're here to try and do it well. We'll try and do it again next year. It's really good.
As you can see, breast cancer logos are on the side of the DC Motorsport MG, and another car running for a charity is the 72 Brunswick Automotive BMW 130. You can see Redar UK on the side of that car. You can sponsor them online. There is another BMW, that's a 120D, a diesel, off on the side of the circuit. And there are only 3 diesels in the race. There is the Seat TDI, Effort, entered from Holland. Red Camel Racing were in the gravel early on, but having a good fight. Now let's turn our attention to the Aston Martins. We know that Jota are leading the battle of Aston Martins. Second is the Nicholas Mee car at the moment, that's the 35 car. And third is Tom Black's Vantage Racing.
First thing is it's really very, very slippy. Cars are sliding all over the place, quite a lot of people going off at various points, lots of yellows. The fast cars, of course, are coming through, very quickly on you. There's a lot of slow-moving traffic as well, so you're on your mirrors the whole time. But it's exciting, it's great fun.
Sounds very tiring.
It is tiring, yeah. And I've just done a single stint there, did a double stint in the middle of the night, which I have to say was pretty draining.
But the Aston's a solid vehicle out there amongst, it's holding its own.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I think the car is in great shape, actually. The guys have done a great job getting it ready. No complaints on that front at all. The car is equipped for this sort of race, yeah, definitely.
So a bit of time to rest now for you, just a few hours left really of the race now.
Yeah, I'll go and maybe try and get my head down for half an hour and then see if I'm needed again before the end of the race.
After Ben Klukas is off in the middle of the night in the really bad wet conditions, the Andrew Beaumont Runnymede Top Cat Mosler is now back into 4th spot and running very well. Remember, that car won 6 hours last year. In the podium positions then, the Azteca Porsche, the 42 car. Bit of damage to the rear end of that car, not quite sure how that happened. And then a great titanic battle gearing up between Keith Robinson, John Gore in the Ferrari there, and the 5 Lichtner, Hoyer and Jet Alliance Porsche drivers. Who will come out on top? It's all down to strategy, picking the right tyres and the pace of the race. Join us in a few moments for the final part, and what a great part it'll be, of the 2010 Britcar 24 Hours. Remain of the 2010 Britcar 24 Hours, and it's a great battle between Porsche and Ferrari at the front of the field between the Class 1 and Class 2 leaders. Third is the Class 3 car of Morcillo Cintrano of the Porsche, and the Ginetta leads Class 4 as people start to get away their tents and come to the circuit for the final few hours of racing. It's been a torrid night out on the campsites, real hardy fans, but great to see such a big crowd here at Silverstone. There is our leader, and it just seems to be a one pit stop between that and the Ferrari in second position. It all depends on how many stops each of them still have to do as to who's going to win this race. They've also been losing a certain amount of time behind the safety car, depending on when the safety car has come out on the circuit, and so it really is a great and tense battle. They're in third position now. Up to third is the Mosler, and that's gone ahead of the Porsche because the Porsche has been into the pits, but he is absolutely unchallenged in Class 3 at the moment for that class honours. Problems for the RJN Nissan. It had problems in the middle of the night with a fuel pump, but even more terminally, twice now engine maladies out on circuit, and that looks much more terminal. Jordan Tresson was at the wheel, and although he has a slight smile on his face, well, not really. It's been a great outing for the PlayStation racers, however, and hope they enjoyed their experience. Back to the Astons then, and Jota still lead the battle of the N24s, and they are right up at the sharp end of the field, but it's not been plain sailing for the 33 car. They've had all sorts of problems, and Langish way down in the 20s.
We had a problem last night when basically the car got hit in the back. We lost about an hour there. In qualifying we had the same problem as well. The car just come in half an hour ago for a broken disc, front disc. So that was only 20 minutes to repair. So, but apart from that, the car's been relatively sound and it's been going around quite well.
The pit stop tally for you is reasonably high. Have you just been struggling to make the right tyre choices?
Yeah, tyre choice and also adjustments to the setting. We went out with a harder setting, and obviously it rained a lot more than we thought, so we had to sort of soften up a bit. And at the end of the day, we had to come in because we had problems with the brakes. But you get 24 hours, you can get quite a few pit stops, so we're happy with the result so far.
How tricky is it being a mid-pack car, because you've got cars that you've got to overtake and cars that are overtaking you, and the speed differential's massive?
Yeah, the differential is huge. But we're basically enjoying just having a little tussle with some of the other sort of mid-rank cars. And they, in the wet, they're all over us, but in the straights we can actually get past them. So yeah, we got some decent drivers, but then we're not pro drivers. We enjoy it. We're amateurs and we have fun. So, but still a few hours to go yet, and I'm looking forward to the last sort of hour or two.
Well, Matt was talking about how tricky it was out on circuit. Let's ride on board with ace Stuart Hall. He running on intermediates because his team have run out of proper wet tyres. And just look at the work that he's having to do on the wheel. Also the spray being kicked up by the cars in front. And also, quite interestingly, the amount of marks being left by the windscreen wipers. Everyone really struggling with windscreen wipers at the moment. Oh no, the Nicholas Mee Aston Martin is being off. That's at Copse. And cosmetic damage to the left-hand side. Was running in 11th position, having a very quiet run of things. But that's a real disappointment for Carsten LeBlanc, Sarah Bennett Baggs Dan and Ben Dazil.
You know, we've had a few sort of issues in the night with the rain and the dry and the rain and the dry with tyre and strategy, but you know, the car itself is absolutely mega. The team have done a great job. Just unfortunately, you know, the conditions are changing all the time. Tyres are getting a bit old, and unfortunately just stepped out a little bit too much and couldn't control it.
It must be very tricky out there to judge exactly how much you can push the car when it's sometimes a bit greasy and other times full wet.
Yeah, I mean, it's changing all the time, and there's also in the last sort of 10 and 12 laps, somebody put oil down, I don't know who it was, and you know, going through Cobbs, Beckett's, maggots, the oil everywhere, and so you see a different car lose it every time. Stuart Hall lost it 5 laps before, right in front of me, and fortunately for him, he went at the inside of the track and didn't hit anything. I, unfortunately, 5 laps later, hit the outside. But yeah, it's changing all the time. You know, your lines are changing every lap, your braking's changing every lap. It's just hard work, really, but you know, good fun. That's what 24-hour racing's about.
And Cobbs is not easy at the best of times. Just to describe exactly what happened to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy corner at all. Obviously, in the wet, you try and stay at quite a slightly wider line, but I think because there was a little bit of oil down there, the line was changing all the time as well. And you run wide normally, you put a little bit of a tyre on the white line, and in the rain, obviously, it can bite you. But every lap I've done that before, I've been able to catch it, and on that lap, it just got the better of me. And I think I caught grip on the opposite lock and came back the other way, and off I went.
Well, we've spoken a lot about Aston Martin, but how about Ginetta G50? There's plenty of them in the race. Gemco car here has had all sorts of issues with diffs and, of course, the windscreen wiper issue that's plagued everyone. That is the Speedworks car, and that's had all sorts of issues as well, both of those struggling down the field. The best of the bunch, then, has been the 46 car of Into Racing. Nick Mercer in that car, but they're all being trumped, embarrassingly, by the little G40.
4.5 hours to go. We've got a 16 lap leading class, 12th overall. Just put Nigel Moore out in the car now, so maybe he can catch the guys in front, but no, the car's on rails in the wet. I mean, you're going past Mosley's in the complex. They get down the straight and they soon come back past you. You've only got 140 horsepower, but no, it's been a very easy car to drive, very good on fuel. We've been doing 3-hour stints in it without stopping, so it's taken its toll out on us guys who did the night shift, so we may have to ask the boss for a bit of overtime pay, I think, for that.
Tell us, have you had any problems at all, or has it just been clockwork?
No, absolutely fine. We've not had a scratch on the car. We've just topped it with oil twice. That's it. 2 sets of wet tyres. That is it.
Because, of course, this is a journey into the unknown. You've never been able to do this with a Ginetta G40 before, and it's obviously working very well for you.
Yeah, the car was brand new Wednesday morning. Lawrence drove it down from Leeds. It spent Thursday testing, bit of setup work. A complete unknown, but no, up to now it's been fantastic. So, yeah, still a long way to go, but fingers crossed it's running well.
How are you going to decide who drives it back up to Leeds again?
To be honest, I'm not fussed if I do, actually, so maybe let one of the mechanics do it. So make sure it finishes this race first.
The stunning Lotus Evora GT4 has really had the pace, but sadly not the reliability to battle at the front of the field, despite a great driver lineup.
We've had a few teething problems with the gearbox. It seems to only be one gear in the gearbox that keeps hindering us. The boys have worked incredibly hard all through the night to get our new gearbox in place. We're going around at the moment in conservation mode, slowing everything down, soft gear changes, nice and steady, and just trying to get to the end, really.
The car has absolutely incredible pace and running in the top 6 at the start of the race, but then you had problems, and is there any sort of legacy of the gearbox problems you've got now from that early incident?
No, not really, not at all. I mean, the car is great, as you say. It's got incredible pace. We're up in the top 6. It's just randomly this problem just started to appear this weekend. It's not been the case before. We've done so many kilometres before the weekend. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's just one of those things.
And a great opportunity for a professional set of drivers to come and have a bit of fun at not quite such a high-profile event.
Yeah, it's great, actually. It's nice to be in an environment that's a little bit more relaxed. You know, the race is a lot longer. We can take our time. We don't have to go out and push 110% every lap. We can decide a race pace and sit on that, get the car home safely, and all enjoy ourselves and get these boys ready for some new races.
Pit stops now massively crucial at the race for the front of the field, and into the pits comes the Jet Alliance 22 Porsche. Less than a lap now separates them and the Ferrari, and whilst they get refueled and change driver, there is MJC taking the lead of the race across the start finishing line. The Porsche gets their change done in 90 seconds and back out onto circuit with a new set of tyres on, but concern on the faces of the Jet Alliance team. Such experience in that team. They've done Le Mans, they've done FIA GT3 racing, but suddenly this is becoming a very serious event. Now into the pits comes the Ferrari. Keith Robinson will hand across to John Gore for the final few hours. Tyres being fitted to that car. Remember, this is only a small part-time team with an absolutely mighty car. They've had a great year in the championship, and now out of the pits. They will be behind the Porsche, but the boys are happy with that. Great stuff. They get their pit stop done in 90 seconds as well. Whoa! Entering stage right there, the Saxon Motorsport. Oh, he's in the gravel. That's disappointing because that's going to throw him out of second position. The Honda Civic's also having problems. Now it's getting sort of greasy. They're struggling because the tyre supply is running low here at Silverstone, and people are finding the grass more than they're finding the tarmac. The Civic has had all sorts of issues. I think that's maybe its second engine in the Synchro Motorsport car, as the rest of the field circulate round. Oh no, more problems for the Eclipse, Mosley. It just never ever gets good, does it? And Ollie Bryant's and Graham Bryant's Marcos hits the back of the pickup truck, and I think it's Will Goff who's put in a barrier. He looks a bit unhappy about that, doesn't he? Sixth spot now is Callum Lockie's Strata 21 Mosler, the 4 car slowly making its way up through the field after gearbox problems at the start of the race. Just behind them is the Seat, this car crewed by a bunch of Aussies who have come over specially for the event. Let's catch up now with Malcolm.
Yeah, they're going really well. We've had no issues with the cars as far as mechanical issues, and obviously the rain suits us, so the race is sort of, I guess, falling our way.
You guys have come over especially for this event, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we normally would come over and do the one in Hungary next week as well, but for various reasons we're just doing this trip.
And this is the second time you've been to Britcar. 6 hours last year. How are you finding the extension to 24?
Yeah, well, it's good. It actually suits us better. Yeah, last year with the 60 hour, we just picked the car up, so it was brand new, and it was a good shakedown for it, but 24 hours is obviously better for us in these conditions.
And what are your hopes now? You're in the top 10, you're a little bit of a battle going on. Where are you aiming to finish at the end of the race?
Well, I think at the moment we're running about 4th in class, so obviously we'd like to get a class podium, but we'd like to obviously get it outright and first, at least make 3rd in the outright if we could.
That Seat's got a tough battle on its hands for the final podium spot in Class 3 with a Tichenor Bmw, but they're happy boys.
Das Rennen ist sehr hart.
He says it's been a very hard race. The weather has made it very difficult, and of course coming through the pack with lots of cars on track, it's been very, very difficult for us drivers, and I think you can see it on our faces.
Mit dem starken Regen, man ist teilweise komplett blind gefahren. Okay, wir sind richtig glücklich.
We are very happy to be the first BMW on track. We think we're a little slower than the others behind, but we should be okay, and overall very happy.
Ich glaube schon, dass wir es schaffen werden.
The BMW that Matthias was talking about was this KG Motorsport car, going really good guns for that podium spot as well.
The car's going great. We had a problem with Gino spinning, which dropped us back down to 9th. Which it's one of those things. We did well. We turned it around in 12 minutes, got the car back in, got all the gravel out and got it back out again, so we're still running 9th, so I'm pretty happy with that.
It's been a tricky year in the championship for you, but the car seems to be run faultlessly here.
Yeah, I know. With the last 2 attempts at taking the car out, we've had all sorts of problems, and then we come and bring it here, and it's a testament to the team for the build they've done on the car.
And a slight disappointment though that you're not at the front of your class.
No, I think we could have had that, but we had an orange and black flag near the start because we had no rear lights. And won a couple of other little problems, but that's 24-hour racing for you.
Another BMW Seat battle is between this 45 Seat, the sister car to the Aussies, and this one driven by Archie Hamilton, the Porsche driver, really enjoying his first time with front-wheel drive, and Aaron Williamson, who's battling for the Formula Renault title. So a great effort from those boys, and they're racing these boys. The Colin White BMW. Colin also a Ginetta driver in the G50 Cup, but also a veteran of Britcar races. If we look further down the field, some more good battles. This 21st overall is between this rather old Integra driven by Darren Anley and Chris Hyman, the ex-Formula Palmer Audi racer. He's teamed up with Dan Brown as well. And they're being chased down by a rather newer car, the Seat Leon Super Copa of Dread and Car Medic. Dread, obviously, the clothing manufacturer, and that's headed by Dan Wheeler, but also Andy Hack, who is a bit of a mini race expert in that car. Moving back into the top 20, just ahead of them is the Nicholas Mee Aston Martin, who obviously had that altercation with the barrier, but in turn is being chased down by the Red Bull Lotus, part owned, remember, by Adrian Newey, that car. He's not here racing it this weekend, and they are recovering from various maladies, but they are also being chased down. Who is chasing down? Phil Keane, Michael McInerney and Sean McInerney in the Eclipse Mosler, who is trying to keep the rain out of the cockpit. They're getting very wet inside that car. Back at the front of the field then, Porsche just about leading the race from Ferrari, but it's still very, very tight indeed, and we still have a couple of hours racing yet to go. Of course, he still leads Class 2, and in second in that class is this Top Cat Marcos Mantis.
It's actually been very smooth, I think. We've only really had one issue, which was the diff. Otherwise, things have been fairly calm. We haven't had any great incidents on track. A little spin here and there, but nothing really that's caused us any problems. So it's all been very smooth. The car's been beautifully prepared. Top Cats as always. So it's been really good. Yeah, it's been nice. We've been able to keep it on the tarmac. Absolutely horrible conditions. I've just finished my last stint, and I'm extremely glad to be out of the car in one piece. So. Yeah, all in all, it's gone okay, but disappointing because of the diff, and that's dropped us much further down than I think we could have been. So.
Yeah, how much time did you eventually lose? You had it just early morning, wasn't it?
Yeah, we lost about 40 minutes altogether, and there was no way we were ever going to get that back. Everybody's been going really well. You can't make that amount of time up, so disappointing, but all in all, it looks like we're going to be at the finish, so it can't be too bad, and that's the result.
And also you'll get a class podium as well.
I believe we will, yes. I think we deserve it for not having any ABS or traction control or anything like that. So, yeah, it's obviously we've got a lot of Class 3 cars in front of us, but yeah, it's been hard work. I think we deserve that one. So, well done to the boys. They've done a great job today.
You'll be cracking out the beers at the end of the race.
4:31, yes.
Well, the time and the clock is slowly ticking away here at the Britcar 24 hours, and it is still just Porsche ahead of Ferrari. The Porsche lost a huge amount of time last time out in the pit stops, and therefore the gap is absolutely minuscule. In fact, if you look behind the back of the screen, there is the Ferrari, the Porsche at the front of the screen. That is the gap between the lead and the second place guys after 23 hours of racing. The Porsche better on fuel, the Ferrari slightly faster in these wet conditions at the moment. It's of course a GT2 car built for endurance racing. The Porsche is actually a sprint car, the Porsche 997 Cup car, and they've adapted it by putting an RSR gearbox in for this 24-hour race, but really they're two very different cars. A big slide as he really tries to push, coming out of Vale and Club and onto what will become the front straightaway here at Silverstone. The Ferrari just approaching Vale, loses the rear end. Wow, he's pushing so hard. John Gore goes off the side of the circuit. Will he keep it out of the gravel? Well, he plows through it and gets back onto circuit, but that's going to cost him a bit of time. Every second counts here at Silverstone. He now comes on to the same part of the circuit we saw the Porsche just a moment. The lights start to flash. Get out of my way, he says to the slowing traffic, and now breaks down into the Abbey chicane. The circuit drying all the time. The tyre choice is absolutely vital. Is it wet? Is it dries? Meanwhile, the Ginetta has been knocked out of the top 10. The 83 Class 4 leading car, some 15 laps ahead of its class battle, so it's very safe indeed. It was a 45 car, in fact, driven by Aaron Williamson at the moment, that's moved into the top 10, and into 11th has gone the 52 Vantage Racing Aston Martin, Tom Black and Stuart Hall, slowly making their way around the circuit. There is Keith Robinson, fingers crossed as to if he can retain the lead of the race, and it's changed hands. The Ferrari is ahead of the Porsche coming out of Luffield and over the start finishing line. John Gore then ahead of Mikael Nukia, who is in the Porsche pushing extremely hard. Look how fast he's going there. Nukia, the World Touring Car driver, normally used to a Seat, there is the leading Class 3 leading Porsche, unchallenged also for third position overall in this race, and that really is a massive effort from Neil Garner and the Azteca boys. The 42 car really has done a great job. Javier Morcillo and Manuel Cintrano have been joined this weekend in that car by Rod Barrett and Jan Petersen. But at the front of the field now, the Ferrari is really pushing as the top cap cars get ready for the formation finish. They are forming nicely. Fifth position will soon go to the Aston Martin. Jota Racing, after a few maladies at the start of the race, have had a really solid run in that car. But here comes the winner of the Britcar 24-hour race, sliding his way through final parts of the traffic, slowly round the final few corners as the Jet Alliance Porsche has to take to the grass at Abbey, making a mistake. Oh, look at that. Joins the Eclipse Mosler off the side of the circuit. But winning the 2010 Britcar 24 Hours is Wick Gamsky, Keith Robinson, John Gore and Phil Dryber in the MJC Ferrari 430. Applause from the team, emotion from the team. 8 days ago they weren't even doing this race, but now they are champions of 2010. Credit to the Jet Alliance Racing team, who takes second overall but wins Class 2. Maybe slight disappointment they didn't get the overall victory, but what an achievement. Third to Azteca Porsche. They take the checkered flag, and congratulations to the gentlemen racers in that car. A really great effort. But there is the winner, the 430 Ferrari, built for GT2 spec, built for endurance racing, and their second overall, first in class. Michael Nukia drives his final lap in the car that he's been in for the last 3 hours. Absolutely knackering stuff in changeable conditions. And there's the beautiful little G40 Ginetta, character all the way through the race. But congratulations to John Gore, who drove an absolutely fantastic final 3 hours on difficult conditions, difficult tyres, and he gives his team a massive hug of appreciation.
Ben, an absolutely epic Britcar 24 hours.
There was excitement all the way through, all the way up until about the last half an hour there. Porsche versus Ferrari. Porsche drivers in the Ferrari. It was absolutely brilliant. And the international guys getting in with the British contingent as well. Epic.
It was seriously challenging with the weather conditions, though.
Oh, God, and how? Fog, rain, torrential rain, lots of standing water at night. No visibility here anyway. We found out at the start of the programme. So, yeah, really tricky, and a credit to everyone out there.
But everyone's spirits were on top form. I mean, considering that obviously it was very challenging for a lot of teams out there. They just kept going, and actually the level of attrition fairly low.
That is exactly right. Normally we see half the field retire and are in the garages. We didn't have any major accidents. Everyone was relatively safe, and most cars were taking the checkered flag.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
The results then of the 2010 Britcar 24 Hours, and confirmation of Ferrari's victory over Porsche, and Porsche in third spot. In Class 1, a great effort by the GTF TVR boys to come home in 49th overall, 5th in Class 1, 3 finishes in Class 2. All the Class 3 boys classified in the top 10, but in Class 4, Ginetta G40 ahead of Ford Escort, Honda Civic, Honda Integra and Seat Leon. Wick Gamsky clambers up onto the top step of the podium. The Sunoco checkered flag gets raised above his head. Keith Robinson, John Gore and Phil Dryber join him on the top step. A great crowd to see the podium, really great to see. What a massive atmosphere it is up there, and they'll be joined in a moment by the second place team of Jet Alliance. The Lickner Hoyers in there, Martin Rich in the glasses, and Michael Nukia there in his World Touring Car suit. A great effort from the foreigners, and in fact it's foreigners also in third position. It's the Spaniards of Javier Morcillo, Manuel Cintrano and Oliver Campos Hull. The Dutch driver Jan Persson, Rob Barrett and Jay Shepherd were all in that Porsche. But what a celebration on the top step of the podium. Keith Robinson hoists the trophy aloft and the champagne sprays. It's been a great race. Let's hear from our champions.
It's terrific. I mean, you don't forget things like this. It binds a whole group of people together, like, you know, so all the guys, there's probably 20 guys down there. There's 4 guys up here, but it just binds us all together. We'll never forget this in all our lives, so I'm pretty sure about it. It's very special.
The car is amazing. I mean, I've only ever raced a Porsche before, so to race something like that was an incredible privilege and an unbelievably good car to drive. I had a great stint with the car. I was allowed to take it from light to dark yesterday evening, which is a real privilege, and just loved every second of the car. I didn't come out until I ran out of fuel. The weather was no challenge to us whatsoever. Yeah, the bad weather suited us every bit as much as the good weather.
A friend of mine said if you can get through the whole 24 hours without a spin, you've won the race. And he was absolutely right. And Whit did a great solid start, and that's the most dangerous part, with people in the drivers' briefings saying, "Oh, we're allowed to overtake them before the lights go." And I'm thinking, well, this is a 24-hour race. You know what happened a couple of years ago. You just need to take it easy on the start. And Whit I think Whit brought the car home in 5th place. And before you know it, we're in the top 3, and the motors suffered, and we just hung in there, and the car did not miss a beat. So we've just got to. I think we've got to get on to the factory, and it was fantastic.
Very proud, yeah, very just all emotional, and couldn't have done it without the guys. They're the best bunch of guys we've worked with. Honestly, they're so superb. Everybody just worked hard, and the car's superb, and the drivers. I mean, man, they're real good drivers.
Jet Alliance really put the fight to Ferrari all the way through.
For me, as a British driver, the one British driver in the team, it's great to always be on the podium at Silverstone. Fantastic team effort. The car was just faultless. Didn't have a single problem. We changed tyres, we put fuel in. Everybody drove superbly. The guys worked brilliantly to get the car where it was. You know, if you'd have said to us before the race, win your class, P2 overall, I think we'd have taken that. So very, very happy.
The start was, as I understand, for the UK in irregular conditions because it was dry. But of course, over the night it helped us. It was tough, but of course it helped a car like the Porsche.
It was frightening. Obviously, we had a little smaller car, and we had perfect tactics. That's why we were in the lead for, I think, 16 hours. The wet conditions played in our hands, and it dried up at the very end. We were still very fast for the Porsche, I think, but wasn't enough for the P1. But we're very happy because to be on the overall podium here with a small car like this Porsche, I think what more can you ask?
It was a tough fight for Class 3 honours, but eventually Azteca took victory.
Everything went to plan almost, and we just couldn't keep the pace with these 2 guys in front. But it was a fantastic race. Yeah, it's very difficult to get a better race out of 24 hours for sure. This car could do 3 24-hour races non-stop and wouldn't break down. It's all credit to the team and how well the car has been built.
The Tortoise and Hare Award goes to the little Ginetta G40.
Absolutely amazing for us to come down and not have 1 minute's bother with the car. We only built it Tuesday, drove it down, we got the same setup on it that it left Leeds with, and it's just been stunning really. Great start for a brand new car.
In the wet conditions it was excellent. I mean, you were passing Moslers and everything, Ferraris, Porsches were on the outside just making mincemeat, and the car was excellent.
Oh, I loved every minute of it. It's been a bit of a culture shock for me, but now mega to be part of Ginetta and Team L&T, and hope for many more outings and successes in the future.
So that's it from the Britcar 24-hour 2010. Thank you to everyone who helped to organise it and those who took part. Some will be going away full of victorious energy, and the rest will just be feeling completely drained. So from myself, Ben, and the rest of the production team, we'll see you soon.